do a quick review, a quick chat about South Carolina, Greenville's North American Rescue, and their AEMT. I don't know why Notebook LM said tactical medical tactical medicine training review here, but that's not completely accurate. There were tactical type people there, but the AEMT, as if you're watching this, you know it's primarily civilian, but many of the students, the learners, were pretty much there were a lot of veterans there, so I'm sure they have tactical experience, but the skills itself was all EMS. Let's see what the podcast has to say.
It's quite something, isn't it? You hear all the time, be prepared, be ready, but then you face this just overwhelming amount of training options out there. Sometimes figuring out where to start feels like the hardest part.
Yeah, it really can be. So today we're aiming to make that a bit clearer. We're doing a deep dive into the North American Rescue Skills Week and also their big 40-chapter online course.
And this is based on real experience, right, from one of our listeners.
Exactly. A listener went through the whole thing and shared their thoughts. So think of this as, getting the inside scoop, the key takeaways to help you figure out if it's a good fit.
Okay, so our listener, they needed solid skills, needed them fairly quickly, but wanted real understanding, those aha moments without just drowning in information.
Right.
So our mission today is to pull out those essential bits from their experience. Is this NAR training, this mix of online and hands-on, right for you?
That mix is definitely key. The online part.
I don't know what resets when I hit interactive. Okay, it's allowing me to join, I guess. Or maybe it's not. Come on. Okay, here we go.
It's quite, you hear all the time, be prepared, ready, but then you face this just overwhelming amount of training options out there. Sometimes figuring out where to start feels like the hardest part.
Yeah, it really can be. Today we're make that a bit clearer. We're doing it into the North American Rescue Skills, and so the big 40-chapter online course.
And this is based on real experience, right, from one of our listeners.
Exactly. They went through the whole, shared their thoughts. So think of this, getting the inside scoop, the key takeaways to help you figure out if it's a good fit.
Okay, so our listener, they needed solid skills, needed them fairly quickly, but wanted real understanding, those aha moments without just drowning in information.
Right.
So our mission today is to pull out those essential bits from their experience. Is this mix of online and hands-on right for you?
That is definitely key. The online, then the skill. Let's talk about that on first. 40 chapters sounds, substantial.
Chapters, wow.
Yeah. And our listener said it wasn't just, reading pages. There were videos, PowerPoints, actual lectures recorded, even some interactive stuff.
So a real mix of ways to learn.
Seems like it. Probably good for different learning styles.
Oh, hey there, what's up?
There wasn't much interactive, like discussion boards there.
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah, tell me more about what you're thinking.
Well, our listener didn't specifically mention discussion boards.
But they did highlight that the online portion wasn't as passive.
Exactly. They talked about interaction modules and knowledge checks.
Things that definitely keep you engaged.
It sounds like it was about interacting with the material itself.
Right, those moments where you have to actively participate.
Engagement carried over to the person's skills.
Where it was all about doing, not just discussing.
Brings us to digging to that online part a bit more.
Okay, so it sounds like it was passive learning.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't something to click through.
It seems to be real engagement.
You can get the basics, sure, but there's depth there if you want to go deep.
Builds that foundation, that theoretical knowledge.
Before you get your hands dirty in the skills week.
So you put in the time online, build that base.
Then comes the skills week, the in-person part.
What was the big shift, according to our listener?
The practical focus, that was the main thing.
Really? None at all?
Nope. All demos, hands-on practice, and trauma simulations.
And how did that feel? That's a big difference.
Totally different. And that's where the instructors came in.
Experience is key.
They weren't just a script.
The mentioned practice of hand skills.
The critical stuff. And the key was repetition.
Makes perfect sense getting it locked in.
Beyond the training content, what about the practical side?
Logistics, times, that sort of thing. Any insights?
Yeah, a couple of interesting points. Lunch breaks, for one.
Oh, like how long were they?
Usually an hour, sometimes even two. Pretty generous?
That is unusual, but probably retaining info.
Probably. Prevents the burnout to absorb.
Okay, what else did they mention? Location.
Right, important one. Lodging is not included.
Good to know to budget accordingly.
And the main training spots are Carolina and Las Vegas.
Got it. Pick based on their location.
Any other little tips from the practical side?
Things you might immediately think of.
Yes, food, eat all week, gets it fast.
The hip training.
Exactly. Pack your own food if you can.
Smart and very practical advice.
And a travel tip for the South Carolina location.
Oh, what's that? Traffic can be bad.
Yeah, budget extra travel time, especially during rush hour.
Good. Nothing worse than being late and stressed.
True, but parking facility was super easy.
Okay, so useful world details.
They also got a tour of the North American Rescue Warehouse.
Oh, cool. Seeing where this is made
Really interesting, a behind the scenes look.
definitely adds another layer to the experience.
The learning wasn't just from the instructor.
The other people in class were a big...
Absolute mix of people was really diverse.
Like, who was there learning together?
EMTs, police, fire, even civilians.
That's a learning environment.
Everyone was humble and eager to learn.
So, wrapping it all up then, overall impression.
Definitely at the in-depth.
And that practice really stood out.
All practical, led by experienced folks.
If you want on intense training,
This 1-hour program seems like a strong contender.
it only sounds that way from our listeners' experience.
Which makes you think about how different learning styles benefit.
And the power of learning alongside such a group.
Exactly. Food for thought as you consider getting...
Thanks so much for joining us for this.
We hope this inside look was helpful.
Until next time, stay curious, learning.